Gosh, yummy conversation with you, Judy.
Yes.
Delicious talk
Hmm.
about intimacy. Mm, like
Yes.
I love intimacy.
Yes. Delicious topic.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
yeah.
Ooh.
Judy, you're launching is it a course on self-love?
Yes, exactly. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm launching the like 8-week self-love course starting in January, the 18th. And at the core of everything, I mean, it's also, of course, like intimacy. And like, yeah, honestly, what inspired me to do the course actually was that I found that there's so much like just isolation and so much like um, separation and disconnection from ourselves that's then of course also reflected like in the outer world. And like what I really want to do, especially like over the holidays and so forth, is like having a program where yeah, it's just this like connection and like connecting back to really the core of who we are. And
Mm,
that's what I find so beautiful with like intimacy, of course.
yeah, it is. Really interesting, Judy. It's like I found that for years, like I just like had this void inside where I didn't feel really loved and lovable. And it just made perfect sense. Like, oh, I'll just get into a relationship and then I'll feel loved. But relationships are not always going to be perfect, and people are imperfect, and sometimes their imperfections hurt us. And so I remember anytime I would feel hurt in a relationship, I would feel all alone. I would feel so abandoned. And the truth is that I honestly wasn't really connected to myself. I wanted to love myself. I wanted to be connected to myself. In the back of my mind, my agenda, my motive was, if I can just get into a relationship, then I will feel loved.
Hmm.
And it was like, despite how many relationships I found myself in, the minute that there was a separation, any moment that there was a disconnect in the relationship, I all of a sudden felt disconnected from myself. And
Yeah.
that's a really crazy, freaky, nasty paradigm to live in, because it feels like the world is never safe because you're constantly like, you are dependent upon that person to be connected with you, to love you, to see you, to value you, to appreciate you. And if that's not there, it's like, oh shit, I'm like all alone. I'm lost in this world.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Like, and then like what you were saying was when you were like basically like outsourcing yourself. And there was this like hurt as you described it. Like what caused it in you? Like was it like this kind of disconnect where you also shut off your own feelings to the other person? Or how was this like reflected in you?
In me, it felt like if they withheld love from me, it felt like a knife to my heart. And I didn't feel really safe in myself. So I would kind of just check out of myself, check out of my body. And so being with another person in a relationship helped me stay in my body, so to speak. So when that happened, I felt like a crazy person, like a mad person. The minute that they would disconnect or disengage from me, I would just,
Mm.
the world is not right, the world is not safe. And then I would just go into like panic survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
that was my story. My story was always that I felt very rejected and I didn't feel very lovable. And so I I didn't honestly know how to love myself. And even I was a dating coach and people were like, you should really talk about self-love. And I was like, well shit, first I have to like figure that out for myself before I can go teaching that. And it was a journey of learning to love myself. And as I learned to love myself, I've been able to stay connected with myself and connected in my body, to where if a significant other withholds love, or so it seems, um, the whole world doesn't have to fall apart inside of me. But it still feels awful. You never feel good when your partner disconnects from you. Like that's never a good feeling, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't feel like death anymore, because I know I can go, ooh, I can connect right back here and go, oh, I'm so sorry, Arica, you feel unsafe. But the truth is, baby girl, you're really safe. You're really loved. You're really lovable. And maybe they're just going through a rough time right now. That doesn't change how lovable you are and how much you matter.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I so feel that. And like always in these like moments of disconnect, like at least for me, and maybe it's the same for you, like it was this like first disconnection and then absolute like panic, closing off, not like myself letting me experience like any kind of emotions. So then I like try to cope with it. So for example, I was like eating, or I was, like drinking, or smoking or whatsoever, but I had so many coping mechanism tools, also like watching TV, for example. And like this kind of was like filling up this void because I was not used to, or that it's okay to experience these feelings.
Right.
Was it like something similar?
It was very similar. It for me, it was first rage, and then panic, and then how do I get busy? How can I
Yeah.
myself? How do I get busy? How do that sort of thing?
Yeah. When was the moment when you stopped? And from like from like thinking so much, or from like, doing something, to like actually go in the state of being, and then like really sinking into the actual challenge?
Yeah. So for me, my journey is a little bit different. I was able to connect to myself through my relationship with God. So I would just curl up in a ball crying, and I would just say, God, I feel really lonely. And when I would feel God's love, God's presence come in, um, it brought safety to my heart, to where I was like, ooh, I don't have to run. I can feel safe. So for me, it's always been through my spirituality that opens the door, but like it doesn't stop there. And then that's just an open door to go, okay, you're safe, calm down there.
Hmm.
And then in that presence, in that atmosphere, then I can just go, I am loved. I am okay.
Yeah.
No matter. The world is not going to fall apart. I'm not going to die. Because sometimes when we feel like there's a void of love, it can feel like death. It feels that serious. If you're really like connected, but not even connected to yourself, but connected to the idea of that you need love, and if you allow your heart to even be cognizant of that, when you don't have it, it can feel like death if you're really disengaged from yourself.
Yes, totally. It's like living in these like two parallel realities, kind of.
Totally. It was really interesting. I'll never forget. I was in a relationship with this guy, and he said, Arica, it's kind of concerning about you. And I said, oh, you never want to hear someone say that. I was like, great. And he said,
Yeah.
you're really close with God. Like you have this amazing relationship with God. I've never seen anyone have quite a unique relationship with God. Because to me, God is like a person. I don't see God as this old man sitting in a chair. Like he's in me. He's with me.
Mm.
And he said, you're very close to God, but then you can all of a sudden just spiral out of nowhere and like be in complete distrust, completely frantic, completely crying. He was like, I just don't understand those parallels there, like how that happens. And I think it was just that I was not connected to myself. It's like, while I had this amazing relationship with God, there was a disconnect with myself, because I felt like I couldn't be safe in myself. There were times in my life and in my childhood where I didn't feel safe, and the world felt very scary. And so I would just disconnect from myself, because I didn't know what it felt like to feel safe in myself. I felt very powerless in my world. So I'm like, well, if
Yeah.
I'm powerless, if my stories, I am powerless in this world, then I gotta run. I gotta find something. I gotta do something to bring me some sort of peace and safety.
Yes. My goodness, it's like such a big thing. But like, how were you then able to like overcome that?
Right. I know. I just realized something. I actually didn't understand answer her question. I think it was a process. This was not an overnight thing. And I really, if someone is resonating with this, I want to encourage you, like sometimes it can happen overnight, and sometimes it's not. For me, my journey was not overnight. It was constantly knowing that I could find peace even if someone was disconnected or mad with me, mad at me. And in that, it was really, Judy, it was taking ownership and discovering who I am and what I bring to the table. And as I started like really like taking ownership over myself, like I think all too often we dismiss ourselves and we don't just stop. And I had to go, you know what, Arica, you have a really powerful voice. Arica, you're a leader. Arica, you are capable to make things happen in your business. And I started looking at all of the things that made me strong, that made me feel powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I felt that void, I had to just remember, like, wait a minute, you are powerful. You don't have to run anymore. You don't have to run from yourself, because who you are is powerful. And for me, that was my story that made me disengage, was that I was powerless. And if I wasn't loved, oh my God, I was really powerless. Like, And so me understanding, like, what makes me, what makes me valuable,
Yeah.
what makes me an asset in my own life, and really taking ownership over that, not dismissing it, not getting into false humility and being like, but really just owning that and saying, Arica, this is what you bring to the table. This is who you are. So sweetheart, you are really powerful, which means you never have to run from yourself again, because you will always figure it out. And reminding myself of my past wins, like, Arica, remember when you were in this dire situation? Remember how you came out on the other side? You have this pattern. You always come out on the other side. Baby girl, you are gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. And it was just like talking to myself. It's almost like how you would talk to a child. When a child tells a parent, there's a boogeyman in my room. Well, when I felt like I didn't have love and I was disconnected from love, I felt like there was a boogeyman in my room that I couldn't like fight. And so what does the parent do when that happens? They come in, they're like, they console the child. They console them. I'm so sorry you feel this way. Let me hold you. And then what do? They expose them to the truth. They expose them to the reality. Look, let's look in your closet. There's no boogeyman here. Let's go under your bed. There's no boogeyman here. And so that's what I had to do, is just, one, give myself some compassion and comfort myself, and then start replaying like the reality of like, the boogeyman has never defeated you, Arica. You've always overcome. And reminding myself of my wins, reminding myself of my value, reminding myself of my power.
Yeah. Yes. Totally. And before even that could take place, probably also like had to like really sink into the emotions, right? Or into like these feelings. Like, maybe I give an example, maybe it's more clear. Like, for example, for me, I never felt really like safe when I was expressing my emotions. So for me, my parents, or like my parents were caregivers, so for it was more like either a not validating of what I'm going through, or like there was a kind of anger, or a heightened reaction exposed to me when I was like in a vulnerable state. So I had this like split experience, that it's not okay to be me, or it's not okay to like feel a certain way. And so for me, it resulted in like living in like two realities and one reality, where it's like, okay, this is my actual emotion, that's how I feel, and then, oh wait, but I have to pretend I feel this or that, because I'm not allowed to feel this one. And so for me to like connect back to that, it was such a long process of honestly like feeling my emotions and like really sinking into this like acceptance of my own self. And first, like having this awareness, of course, like about, okay, how do I feel actually? What you said as well, like getting to know who I am truly, but then also like having this experience of being safe and felt with myself, and then also through like others. Was it something similar?
It was, and I'm really glad that you said that, because Judy, I think the biggest thing that keeps us even disconnected from ourselves is just that we don't have permission to feel the pain. And we're so taught that pain is bad. If you're mad, or if you're in pain, like, get out of it, fix it, find a solution.
Yes.
And first and foremost, we have to give ourselves permission to feel what we feel. But most of the time we can't even give ourselves permission because there's this ugly monster called shame. And shame says, oh no, like if you feel that, Judy, you are going to go in such a dark place and you will never come out. And shame just starts lying to us. And oh, that brings out such an ugly side in you. And remember when you did that and it hurt other people? And like shame starts getting into our psyche where it silences us. It takes our voice away. It takes our permission away. It takes our feelers away where we don't even have permission to feel what we feel, like you're saying. And for me personally, it was, I had so many years, Judy. I was so gracious, so blessed that so many people in my life throughout the years were so gracious, people that I trusted, people that I had developed connection with, who would speak into my life and say who I really was when I couldn't see myself. And it was by them seeing me and speaking the truth over who I really was, even when I couldn't do it for myself, that those truths remove the shame. And so at some point, I'm a bit of a fighter. So my way of doing things is some people stop and they think and this. No, I'm just like, let's fight it out. And so I just remember for so many years hearing these people speak these truths over who I really was. And finally I just got really angry. I was like, shame, you cannot bully me anymore. You cannot put me in a corner. You cannot hold back my feelings. You cannot take my voice away. You cannot take my permission away. We are not having this anymore. So it was a culmination of people speaking truth in my life. And then me looking the monster in the face and saying, you cannot rob my voice. You cannot take away my ability to feel what I feel inside. You will not make me feel bad about this. Absolutely not. And it was like confronting that monster, just poof, lifted everything to where I was like, oh, now I can settle in. Now I can give myself permission to really feel this stuff. And it's facing the pain, it's facing those things is where we get our victory. It's where we get our power back, is by just looking at it and facing it, allowing ourselves to feel it, allowing ourselves to give it a name, and allowing ourselves to sit in it and not just have to run and escape every time.
Yes, absolutely. It's like when we're facing this death that we normally would feel, like in the face of intimacy, and we really face that, then it just dissolves kind of when we're like, okay, wait, I'm alive still. But it's like this returning feeling of death that comes as long as we haven't really dealt with the death moment itself. And I love that you're saying this.
Totally. And then on the other side, that once you remove shame, once you face the pain, because we're not just martyrs, where can we find pain and face it?
Yeah.
Do it because of the reward. And the reward is, what I found was every time that I faced my pain, that I told shame, fuck off, that every time I did that, that on the other side of that was freedom. On the other side of that was love, that I could feel love for myself, that all of those years where people had spoken into my life about what they saw inside of me, that I could now see that for myself, that I could take ownership of that for myself, that I could feel that in myself. And that is the beauty. It's like a twofold thing. It's like when we find the courage, and sometimes that's other people holding us up to do this, but when we find the courage to face the pain, to tell shame to fuck off, that love is always there to meet us. That love is always there to build us. And that may come in the form of people. That may come in the form of a coach. That may come in the form of just going on a retreat and going hiking or doing, but love will always find its way into our life. And most people are so scared, why don't I have love in my life? And most of the time it's because they've not faced the pain and shame is tormenting them. But the truth is that love is always there. Source of love is always there, looking for creative ways. How can I love on Judy? How can I love on Arica? How can I make Judy feel and see that she's valuable? How can I make Arica feel heard and her voice accepted and the permission to stay in her body? Source of love is always working on our behalf so that love can penetrate, that love can go in. But oftentimes it's the lies, it's the pain, it's the shame that builds these walls in our heart. And love is just trying to come in, but the walls wall says, no, it's not safe. It's not safe for love to come in. I have to stay in fear. I have to stay in control. I have to stay in disconnection. I have to stay in addiction. Like all of these other things will protect me. And love's just constantly looking for ways to take that wall down.
I so feel that when you're saying this, yeah. You know, what I found so amazing, I mean, I think we got to know each other in August, right? And I was at your place in your home, and it was so just incredible. You are like such an embodiment of like intimacy, you know? Like when, for example, you like were there and like just, you know, offered us just your place and just the way how you were yourself, you know? Like it's such a beautiful and like also light way that you have, and it's so like just so full of connection and intimacy, like just with people, you know, and it's just so beautiful. So I admire like the journey and like your process that you've also like been through.
Thank you.
So that's really, really beautiful.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. You know, Judy, I have to say, I always tell people this, and it's been my secret in life to be able to embody this. When ultimately, like I'm doing this course right now, or this master class that I'm launching in January, and it's called The Heart of Connection. And I'll just be really transparent. Judy, I know there are people out there when we talk about this, like loving yourself, and it's like, okay, how did Arica embody this? You know, for so long, it makes me so emotional. For so long, I couldn't see myself as lovable. I couldn't see myself as valuable. And I was so blessed to have people come into my life and to say, I see you and you matter and you have a beauty inside of you and you're going to live a powerful life and there's greatness on the inside of you. And that these people would come into my life and I would listen to them and just think, that sounds so good, but I really don't know if that's true. And you know, when I say that my secret was this, my secret was that I always took a risk. I took a risk to expose my heart, to expose my story, to expose who I am and who I was through vulnerability. That when that person showed up in my life to speak into my life, rather than put up a wall and say, and let the lies just penetrate and when, you know, Arica, they don't know what they're talking about, you know, I took a risk and I said, I'm going to expose my heart. I'm going to make my heart vulnerable to their words, because there is a possibility that what they are saying over me could very well be true. And I feel like what has made me so powerful and in that position to embody intimacy and to embody love is because I allowed myself to be vulnerable to the love of other people. Because when I couldn't give myself love, their love is what kept me afloat. Yeah. And it was allowing myself to cultivate these connections one risk at a time, one vulnerable moment at a time, of when that holy moment of intimacy was there, that I took the risk. I was vulnerable. I just dived in and I gave that person access to me. I would expose my heart to them. And it's like through those actions consistently over my life, it's created, it has broken and shattered the walls in my heart for love to come in, for intimacy to have its full voice, its full reign, for those connections to sustain me, to get me to where I am today.
Yes, and this moment is so, so, so brave. Like this is exactly like this kind of shell, how I perceive it, like that's around the heart. And like this is exactly like the thing that was built in the survival mode when we were young. It doesn't matter through which experiences, like what kind of traumatic things happened, but this is exactly like this moment that's like manifested there, what you were talking about, like with this, like, you know, allowing love to really hit you and like not putting up the wall. And for example, that's something that I struggled with so long, like this, even though I mentally thought, okay, good, I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable right now. Hit me feelings. There was nothing coming through, you know. Yeah. And like this, so I know like how much like just work, honestly, like work it takes to like get to the point where it can hit you. And that's also something, honestly, like that's something I'm at least aware, you know. It's still like sometimes, okay, I'm up in my head, or you know, or like something is not like hitting me as like, or like penetrating me as much as it could, you know. And yeah, but I love the like the journey behind that, so I really, yeah, see them.
So I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
When did you learn that you were lovable?
Mm. Oh my goodness, love the question. Actually, like it took me years and years and years and years to really feel that. So first, I also compensated through like some, I think, know my story, that at some point I was so fed up with who I was, I just took literally a journal and was like, okay, who do I want to be instead? Like, I don't want to be bullied. I don't want to be, you know, like the fat girl that nobody really likes, and so forth. And I just took my short journal. I was 9 to the time, and wrote down all the things that I wanted to be. And like, and from my perception, I knew that, for example, like Vogue is a place where everyone has prestige, is beautiful, is skinny, and therefore, in my child's mind, is loved, because these are all the attributes that I knew my father wanted me to embody, you know? So, long story, but to cut it short. So I made a list, and I was like, okay, if I want to reach the goal of working for Vogue, which is like, I will totally love myself, I have to get rid of all these other qualities of mine. So, for example, I'm not gaming anymore. I'm not, you know, like do all these like nerdy things. And so I really programmed myself with behavior, mannerisms, like how I talk, with everything, with how I dress myself, to be this girl who can work for Vogue at one point. And then from the outside first, everything was really beautiful. Like I lost 20 kilos. I was like really, like in 2 months, I was just not eating for that whole time. And I really like raped myself in a sense. I really tortured myself there. I bought the right clothes. I, put the right makeup on and all these things. And from the outside, everything looked so amazing and so beautiful. But this was when I really began to honestly, it was more like a, not break, but a slowly dying even more, because then I also got, depression and bulimia and like a lot of other things.
Can I interrupt you really fast?
Yeah.
Isn't it fascinating? And I want to say this because I believe that there are a lot of people watching this right now who will be able to relate to this. Isn't it interesting how self-hatred will come in and slowly kill us off so
Yes.
that we get love?
Yes.
Self-hatred lies to us and says, if you become skinny, for women, it's our beauty. For men, it's what they can accomplish. And so self-hatred tells men, you just got to make yourself stay at the office. You just got to slave. You just got to make it happen. Slow, luring them into a very slow death. And it goes, so that you can get love, which is the opposite. Hatred and love are the complete opposite. And it's so mind-boggling how self-hatred can come in and say, let me slowly kill you. Let me slowly diminish you. And you will find love in the end. And it's such a lie. It's such horseshit.
Yes. So true. And thank you for pointing that out. So true. Like, so, I mean, then it was always the same story repeating itself. Then I went to study fashion journalism, media communication. To the same time, I went there. Everything from the outside looked beautiful, was really amazing at school, was the achiever type. Got also like burnout, depression, bulimia got worse, all these things. And so it's like, it was always like this, being in two worlds at the same time. I felt so isolated, so like alone. So, I couldn't really share anything with anyone. And because I also had no idea how I could be there for myself, I was like, like searching for, I was like searching intimacy basically through work, through accomplishments, through dating, through everything. But it always left me so unstable because I was always only like operating from these kind of masks that I put up and not from my core. And so it was so like always this feeling of instability. And I can so relate when you were saying like this feeling of dying, when I got a sense of one of my friends or someone that I was dating that he is leaving me somehow. It could be as easy as like, or as simple as, I don't have time today. Then this would mean for me, like, okay, they're leaving, they hate me, and I totally closed off. And I couldn't feel anything anymore. So literally nothing. And so for me, it was also this like breaking down of all these walls. And finally, actually, when I got the opportunity to work for German Vogue, like when I did my exams, like during that time, I got basically the invitation to work there. And I was there. I can remember like there was a beautiful bouquet of flowers on the table. You know, it was an incredibly white office. Everyone was dressed beautifully. There were like goodie bags here and there. You could just, take something. It was an amazing experience and I love it as well. I mean, I'm still writing for them. But the thing is, I was there seeing the card on my table, saying my name and like Condé Nast publications. And I absolutely don't feel loved, like not at all. And so it's like this, this inner, or this image that I had of, okay, good. When I work there, I feel loved. But like it was only like a tick on a to-do list. And it was not even like, it was nothing really emotionally happening with me. And so after that, I connected with myself, and it was a process of being like really becoming self-aware, and becoming authentic, and really like through that gaining intimacy with myself again and learning that. And actually the breakthroughs and the breakthrough moments that I had were when I could or when I felt so safe, either in a relationship or with friends, that I really could share myself, and when I trusted so much that even though I felt this, okay, I want to put up a wall or something, that I could bridge that feeling. And like maybe, for example, that was what I did. Like I imagined, for example, someone I truly love hugging me. And this would allow myself in these situations to let my heart stay open so that something really could come in. But honestly, that was such a process. Like it took me years and years and years. And yeah, so, but the moment where I really went on this journey, or it was like the peak, was when I was working for Vogue, like in the office.
Too, like you work so hard to become the skinny girl and working at Vogue, which, hey, it's probably all of our dream. Like we've all seen the chorus cry and we're all like, oh, we'd all love to like work at Vogue. But it's like good for you to come to that reality. Like, wait a minute, I achieved everything I wanted to achieve, but I'm more isolated than I've ever been before. I'm not actually able to receive love. It's like, and good for you to finally go, okay, that didn't work. What can I do different? People, allow them to love me, allow love to permeate and become a safe place in my life.
Yes, absolutely. But also, honestly, like for me, I never had this feeling of truly being loved. So also I never had like another, like, a point of reference. So it was basically, okay, something feels totally off. I have no idea what it is. The only thing that I experience right now is feeling numb. And I know people say that the reality can feel different. So I come from a place where I only feel like numb. Wow. And yes, and that was actually without having a point of reference. That's like the thing.
Wow. That's huge, Judy. I'm sure there's some people watching this and they're like, I totally can relate. Like I've not had people who have come in and loved me. And I really, all I know is that people are saying that it's a possibility and it exists. Yeah. Wow. I love that you're speaking to that.
Yeah, but also like what you were saying with love, for example, there's so much love out there, and it's basically, I mean, it's the source of everything. And with everything that comes, it doesn't matter if it's like, the like a coping mechanism or something that we use as a kind of like basically destructive method or so, but under everything, it's carried from by the solution. It's carried by love. It's carried by exactly the thing that we need in order to resolve it. So it's only the level of consciousness that we have to like switch up a little. But every problem comes with a solution, and that's something that I found so beautiful to witness and to know, because there's love everywhere, as you say, but it's like this ability to really like see it as it is, and this only happens through consciousness, at least like in my case.
Yes. And to me, I always struggled that love was not powerful. I always thought, like, I struggled a
Yeah.
lot with control, and sometimes I
Yeah.
still will. If I get afraid, I will control a situation. And I'll never forget, I had a coach that I worked with, a husband and wife couple, and she really fought for my heart, because I was like, no, control is powerful. And she was like, no, that's a lie. The truth is that love is more powerful. And it was one of the most powerful sessions in my life, where her and her husband fought for my heart, and she was screaming over me, my love is more powerful than control. And she just fought and fought and fought through that wall. And I eventually broke. And the interesting
Wow.
thing enough was that for so many years, love kept trying to come in, and it was like a fly, and I would just swat it off. And I would say,
Yeah.
love is weak. Love is not powerful. What is powerful is making my dreams happen. I wanted to become a famous actress. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be known, essentially
Yes.
like a long ass way to get to love. Like what you were sharing in your
Yeah.
I need to achieve all this and prove that I am lovable. And I think that's just it. Like it's too much for us to believe that we are just loved for the sake of being loved. And
Yeah.
there's nothing that we can prove ever to make us more lovable. We are already in that state, but we get so conditioned thinking that we have to earn it. And so I just fought tooth and nail, like thinking I would become powerful and controlling my life and making it happen. And the entire time, love kept trying to come in, love kept trying to come in. And it wasn't until that session where I just broke with my coaches that I was like, okay, maybe love is more powerful. And Judy, in my own experience, where I have done life one way of trying to control things and trying to make it happen, it's only made me feel more self-hatred. It's made me feel very tired. I mean, that path is exhausting. It is exhausting. And when love started taking residence and I started trusting it more and more and more, I was like, wait a minute. I'm able to live in my dreams much more quickly. I'm able to feel safe in myself. I don't have to hate myself. I don't beat the shit out of myself. I get to just love myself. I feel like I become more beautiful. The more love I get, I can see it. Like when I'm single and when I was afraid and like, and then when I'd be in a loving relationship, it was like I would look like two different people.
Mm.
And I'll never forget that after my coaches took me through that journey, I had done a photo shoot. I was in a relationship, long story short, relationship did not work. And I went into a lot of self-hatred and got really skinny. Like my face is already pretty thin, but my bones were like Cruella de Vil, just poking out of my face. And there was so much self-hatred. It's like, I am effed up because I cannot be loved in a relationship. And I'll never forget having a photo shoot done in that moment, and just I look like death in these pictures. And then months later, after working with my coaches and that session of where she fought for my heart, I had another photo shoot done. A photographer said, I'd love to photograph you. And it was like a total different girl. And so like very tangibly and practically, like what self-hatred did to me was just make me look like death. But then when I saw these pictures, like I physically looked more beautiful. I was just like, it was fascinating to see the night and day difference of trying to make things happen in my own strength, my own paradigm, trying to control it, trying to force a relationship to happen, and then surrendering to the power of love.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly the thing. Like from going from force into flow, like from thinking you have to like do something, like power through, have your structure and everything. I mean, honestly, for me, like, I mean, control through eating disorder, control through, like working so hard. It was like exactly the same thing. But like then finding the way, as you said, from like force to this like feminine flow. I mean, this is like so powerful. Oh my goodness.
Surrender, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's surrendering. It's just like a woman making love to a man when she spreads her legs open and she says, I surrender to your penetration. It's like that heart. I know that sounds very out there, but it's that same heart posture that men and women can both have of that I surrender. I allow you to come in,
Yeah.
That's why I even call it love making. It's a surrender, it's a receiving, and it's a giving. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm super curious, like how has your relationship like changed your attitude towards intimacy, or maybe even the other way around?
Ooh, that's, it's so interesting. I will say this first and foremost. I was married for 7 years, and then I've had 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th relationship since I've been divorced. And I've been divorced since like 2006, so 11 years. And I have to say that the men that I have chosen to be in relationship with, while they didn't work out, I, for the most part, attracted some pretty safe, loving men. Granted, they all had their dysfunctions, as did I. But I can't say, oh, this person was just horrible. The worst relationship I was in, it was just he had some brokenness. But for the most part, these men were very safe, loving men. But my relationship now, obviously, I'm going to say is the best I've ever been in. And it has challenged me to the root. Our first year was just, I always say this. I always say, like, it's easy to think that you're evolved when you're single because it's just you. No one's pushing on your buttons. No one's, doing things that trigger your heart and hurt you. I'm like, get in a relationship and that will show you how evolved or how much more evolving you can really do. And so, so much fun. Yeah. And I would say my relationship now where, our first year and a half, I'm all about like, just go through the hard stuff in the beginning. I'm not built to like put up pretenses and pretend I'm someone. I do not function that way. I'm like, you're going to see all my shit and you're going to see it now. Woo!
Yeah.
So, my partner has seen anxiety attacks. They've seen me miserable in job situations. I mean, we've seen each other in some really hard times. And what I have learned through this is it's really rooted me in intimacy. And I've had a lot of people say that to my life. They're like, in your relationship, you've owned your voice more than you've ever had with your coaching business. You have, you've really come to embody your message. And vulnerability has been really huge for our relationship and taking a lot of risks back and forth with each other. And sometimes we've both messed up big time and hurting one another's hearts. And I have to say that with intimacy in this relationship, that humility has been vital. Having that humble heart to just go, you hurt me, but I choose to forgive you. I have hurt you out of my own brokenness, and being humble enough to own your own brokenness and go, wow, my brokenness really just hurt you and you didn't deserve that. Will you please forgive me?
Yeah.
Vulnerability, humility, like these things have changed how I do intimacy to the point where, like you said, I'm in a place where I'm embodying it. And it's that steadfast love that is consistent of, even when I'm pissed off, even when I'm ready to pack my bags and go, that because we've cultivated vulnerability and humility and forgiveness, that immediately when that love feels like it's being torn apart, that through vulnerability, humility, and forgiveness, that bridge is restored and love can continue to flow both ways. Even in the midst of calamity, that we can immediately stop. We can have conversation. We can expose our hearts to one another and go, I'm wrong. I remember even one time having a huge blowout with my partner, and I wasn't wrong. I was actually really right. And it was a hurtful situation over something very tender in my heart. And I felt like in my heart, God was like, I want you to go and ask your partner for forgiveness. And I was like, granted, I'm a fighter. So I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, and you know, my little side comes out. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm a big believer, either you want connection and you want love, or you want to be right. Which one do you want? And I'll never forget, it was so humbling because I knew I was right. But to me, justice was not the priority. Love and connection was the priority. And I went to my partner and I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry. Not taking full responsibility for the situation, still owning my voice, but saying, I'm sorry how you feel in this relationship. I'm sorry that you don't feel appreciated. I'm sorry that you feel this. I didn't lose my voice. I didn't take ownership over something that I shouldn't have, but it was, I'm sorry that this situation is making you feel disconnected from me. I'm sorry that you feel hurt. I'm sorry that you don't feel appreciated by me.
There must be such a healing experience for, like, also for him.
Oh, he just wept. And he said, I just need you. For him, he felt like I wasn't meeting him halfway. Because I'm very vocal, I can come across as just this train just running through people because I am comfortable in my voice. But for other people who are not comfortable, it just feels like you're just plowing over them. Yeah. And for him, he was like, I just need to feel like you're meeting me halfway. That it's not constantly me coming to apologize, because I'm constantly voicing like, I need this. Like I'm very active and giving my heart a voice. But for somebody who's not used to that, or he wasn't used to that, it could feel like you're just being ran over. And so it was a very healing time for us. And it's going through these sort of things, the tough times and the good times. You know, my partner has spoken into my life about who I am when I didn't see it for myself, when there are portions of my heart that I still didn't feel powerful in. Having a partner really see me, but that's the thing about openness is vulnerability, is you have to expose yourself, because that's the beauty about exposing yourself and vulnerability too, is sometimes when you open yourself up, they can see things inside of you that you've never seen in yourself before. And it's like, you know, just opening that chest, and we always think, oh, they're just going to see all my shit. No, they're going to see your beauty too. And so it's been having that steadfast, like, love of saying, like, I see this in you. Come on. Like, you're in a slump right now. That's not who you are. This is who you are. This is who you are meant to be. And having like that steadfast of love just being spoken in my heart has also made me feel more powerful in intimacy, because it's like, wow, when I open up myself, I'm allowing someone to see the gold inside of me as well. I'm giving them access, not just to my brokenness and my hurt, but I'm giving them access to see my gold and to call it my gold. Because sometimes we get so myopic, we're in ourselves and we can't see ourselves. But if we allow ourselves to open, then someone else can go, hey, wait, whoa, I see a lot of gold there. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of connection. It's why we need each other. It's why we're not meant to do this life alone.
Yeah, it's so incredible. Like the only thing, or like the number one thing that we all crave is like connection. It's like, you know, being understood. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful feeling, yet we are so afraid to death to really experience that. Yeah. And it's like this process to like really pierce through these false layers that we put up. It's like, even though it feels like death, it also is so much liberation, and it's so like so empowering, so empowering.
So much, so much. We can only see so much of ourselves sometimes, but when we allow other people, I always see it like this. I have God inside of me, and you have God inside of you. And if I will open up myself, then the God in you will see the God in me, and you'll be able to call out the places of God in me that I'm not able to see in myself.
Yes.
And we want to be seen. We want to be known. We want to be treasured and cherished and valued.
Yes.
We have to be vulnerable to allow those connections to come.
Mm.
And you become an addict. Like once you start experiencing vulnerability and you like see where you're getting that liberation, that freedom, that safety, you're like, well, it's why I keep doing it. I always tell people I'm not a martyr. I always talk about I've lived my life through vulnerability. And I'm like, it's not that I'm this martyr, just like, hey, like everybody like see all of my shit. And no, it's because with that vulnerability, I've been liberated. I've been free. I've gotten the things that I want, which is love and safety and being seen. That's why I do it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I so feel that. Yes. Like, do you have one tip, like, like one advice that you would give someone who really wants to like discover more of their own intimacy, or like, connect deeper to themselves? Do you have like maybe your number one advice that helped you the most?
My number one thing is I believe that everything always starts with a question. And as we ask this question, the answers will come. But asking yourself this question, can I surrender to love? And it sounds so simple. It sounds like, well, what do I do from there? Like we always want something to do. What can I do? But when you ask that question, can I surrender to love? What you are doing is you are setting your heart up. You are posturing your heart to be able to receive. And what happens is that's where the magic begins to flow. That's where people start showing up in your life and they start speaking into your life. That's when books just start falling into your lap. You see people recommending the same book over and over and over again. That's when that coach, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's when that coach just comes into your life. When you posture your heart with that question, can I surrender to love? In that moment, when you've positioned yourself, you've postured yourself, you've opened your heart through that one question, that is when the magic of life starts going. Now I can serve you. Now I can give you what you want, because the wall is gone and you're ready to receive. Mm-hmm. And so I always say, start off with a question. And that question would be, can I surrender? Can I surrender to love? And watch how life starts unfolding before you to take you on the path to be loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would be your one tip, Judy?
So first, I love it with the question, but like, can I surrender to love? Actually, for me, probably it would be even a bit easier if I would say something like, how can I surrender to love? Because like maybe it's just also like different like ways where you're coming from, but like this, how would it actually look like? Like, what would it be like to have just this question somewhere in the ethers, swirling around, and like what you said, like kind of being just this open, like so receptive to this, like through it. So I love this idea. Actually, it was also like a question that I worked with, like how would it look like to be open for that? But let me see. Honestly, it would be, first, everything boils down to self-awareness. Like everything boils down to self-awareness. At least like from my journey, what helped me big time was like to see like to gain awareness of all the things that I'm doing to like escape a situation. So for example, when it comes to question, maybe also something like, what am I doing to escape intimacy with myself? And then really taking stock of that. And actually, I mean, for me, it was like a list as long like this, maybe more.
Me, it was food, dating,
Yes.
sex,
Yes.
alcohol, going out to clubs,
Yes.
isolation.
Thank you. Big one. Mm.
Yeah.
Yes. And like these, it's also so interesting, like how intimacy is in fact something totally different than everyone tells us. Like, I'm not sure. I'm super curious. How is it with the people that are coming to you? Like, do they actually know like what intimacy is?
No, no. Most people, when I talk about intimacy, they think it's just sex. They're like, oh, you're a sex expert. I'm like, well, it does affect your sex life. Yeah. It's so much more. No, I think intimacy is a very vague term. It's just like,
Mhm.
it's the one thing that we're all craving, but we don't understand the simple word. So I
Yeah.
actually just redefined it. And I looked at my wall. And I said, intimacy is the act of seeing another person through the eyes of love. It is of a giving and of a receiving.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. I love the reframe.
Mm.
And like, yeah, it also has this like element of like, you know, really like sharing your reality with someone else, or having the willingness to share a reality with somebody else. And so honestly, like also for me, I sometimes thought like, oh yes, I'm good at intimacy, but actually I had no interest at all to like share a reality with someone. Like it was like some years ago, but like it was something, a totally mismatch of things, you know, like thinking that yes, good at intimacy, but in fact, like, you know, there was no um yeah, ability to share the same reality, and no wish for that. So I love your reframe.
And sometimes we need to get set up, because for me, I would go back and forth. I would go into intimacy, I would come out of it, go into intimacy, come out of it. And I'll never forget sitting with a girlfriend of mine, and she was really honest with me. Her name is Amiko, and her boyfriend was a guy who went into space for a year. So
Oh
while
wow.
her boyfriend was Scott Kelly, he was in space for a year, and so Amiko and I were out having dinner and having a girls' night while Scott was in space. And she said, Arica, you wall off very quickly from intimacy. You shut down very fast. And she called it out on me. And I think that's the whole thing of vulnerability too, is like vulnerability is like cultivating safety with another person where they
Yeah.
can share their heart with you. And she shared her heart with me, and I received it. And it made me feel like inside, but I received it. And I almost forgot that conversation. She was like, I'm so proud to see where you've come in your intimacy. But for me, it was being in my relationship that kept my heart open. It's like if you can almost see like two clamps on each side of your heart that just keep your heart open.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just positioning ourselves to connect with people so that our hearts can remain pried open for that intimacy to flow. Because too often we want to just close it back up. But if we can have something pry open our hearts. One of my VIP clients right now came to me. He was like, oh, I want to find intimacy. I want to find love, but was very disconnected from his daughters. And my intuition said, don't work with him in finding a woman. Work with him in opening his heart to his daughters. Because if you can do that, and I literally saw a picture of his heart open and two clamps on each side of his heart. If you can pry his heart open, his daughters will keep his heart open, and then full love can play its course, and he'll not and shut off again. So it's positioning ourselves to be in relationship with people, whether it's your daughters, whether it's a love, whether it's a friendship, where your heart it's got those clamps where you can't run, and all you can do is surrender to it remaining open.
I love this picture. It's so key. It's beautiful.
Judy,
Like,
it's so good.
yeah. I would love to ask you another question. May I? Because it's such a juicy topic, and I know you have some amazing stories to tell. Like, what is your main transformation for one of your clients that that he achieved through like being more like intimate?
Wow, I have to say, there's one story that hits me every time. I'll never forget, and it's not really. It was actually when I was still a dating coach, and what I was doing with my clients the whole time was working on intimacy, but I didn't know to call it intimacy. I didn't see a place in the market for intimacy, so I was just a dating coach. And I'll never forget, I was working with this client who, in my opinion, struggled with a lot of self-hatred and a lot of walls in their heart to not be able to receive love. And I remember this client blowing up on me. Like, I was out having dinner with some friends in Malibu and I had no reception. And I come down the hill from Malibu, get on the PCH, I look at my phone and I've got a barrage of text messages from this client chewing my ass out saying, I just had a dire situation, you weren't there, da, 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 da. And like at first I was like, oh my God. So I get home, I pick up the phone and my client starts yelling at me. You've been lying to me. You're blowing smoke up my ass. Like, I'm not as great as you're saying that I am. I'm not as lovable as you say that I am. Da, 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 da. And I did the most professional thing that a coach could do for a client. I ripped him a new asshole and began screaming and cussing at him. If fucking Gandhi was your coach, you would not be able to receive love because you were so committed to self-hatred. You were so committed to hating yourself that if anyone tried to love you, you would not allow love to come in. And you were going to have to surrender to love and get off your fucking high horse and get out of your pride and get out of anger and fucking let love come into your heart. And he was like,
it's divine. Oh my goodness.
That's professional. And he was like, well, I'm not coming to our next coaching session. This is last session. I'm not coming. I said, you are coming. You will be here and you will be on time and you will be logged.
Oh. Yes.
And so he comes into his session and he's just like pissed, doesn't want to be there. Arms are, our body starts shutting down. The arms are crossed over. And I was like, I love you so much. You matter so much. You are so valuable. You are so worthy to be loved. And I'm so sorry about those past situations where you have felt completely devalued and unworthy and unlovable. But the truth is that you are so loved. And he just began to weep and I held him because I'm a big toucher. I'm like, I don't believe in just like sitting across from someone and talking to them. Like, it's not intimacy. Intimacy is being able to put our arms around each other and saying, hey, maybe you can't hear my love, but you are going to feel my love. And I just remember holding him. And at the end of our session, he called me and left a voicemail for me. And he said, Arica, never in my life have I ever been so loved by a person. You have shown me what real love is like, and I believe in love now. And to me, that is one of my biggest testaments. I think people are typically looking like, oh, like like who did they find? Like one of my clients ended up marrying Beyonce's cousin, which was a really cool, fun story. But for this specific client, that to me is the biggest transformation. For a person to go from hating themselves and to finally experiencing and believing that love was real and that love was true and that they were valuable again, to me was one of my best client stories ever. My best story ever. And that's my whole goal through, you call it intimacy. I was called a dating coach and that, but essentially my heart, Judy, is I struggled all my life feeling rejected and feeling unlovable. And in my heart is, if I can make each client who's in front of me feel love again and to believe in love again, then I've done my job.
Yeah. And it's also so powerful because like what you like did there is like, you know, love is not like, oh yeah, everything is gonna be fine. You know, it's absolutely not what love is. And it's like this really like Kali power inside of you that's like, it can be destructive, it can be anything, but it's like always like just this like powerful love that you emanate. And it's like, so it's just like the most powerful force. It's like, it's so incredible. And like to love in such an intensity, you know, that's such a gift. That's such a gift.
It's crazy. I always tell people, what you struggle with the most in your life will speak to you about your calling and your purpose. And for me, I struggled with feeling so unloved and like a loser and a nobody all of my life. And little did I know that my life would be just the opposite, that it would be to not only powerfully love myself, but to powerfully be able to give that away and love other people.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. That was a great question.
Kali goddess.
This is powerful. I'm glad our Facebook Live didn't work out, so we weren't distracted by glitches and too many comments, but really just creating this safe sanctuary for us to share our hearts and to share the power of loving ourselves and connecting with others.
Yes. My goodness, honestly, I could go on and talk with you for hours. There are like so many like little, you know, stories and things to be revealed. It's just so interesting. Like,
we should do it again.
Yeah.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you too.
All right.
Christmas sweaters.
Green and red. Green and red.
Green and red. So beautiful.